I gathered 23 Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 phones. Some are global bestsellers, while others you can only really buy in some Asian market. This video has one goal: to find the best 8 Gen 3 phone out there. Now, which phones made the cut? First up, last year's flagship models. They have premium designs, versatile cameras, and rock-solid performance. Then there's this year's new mid-range contenders. Same killer 8 Gen 3 chip, but with bigger batteries and upgraded displays. And of course, I've got some wild cards in the mix. Red Magic, built purely for gaming. Nubia, with that 35mm main camera. And Meizu, often called the Samsung of China. This is gonna be epic. Let's find out who wins. We tested all phones in a controlled 25 degrees Celsius room, with screens locked at 300 nits and volume set to 65 dB. We used a mix of manual testing and automated script to simulate real-world usage as closely as possible. Enough talk, let's see how they actually performed. The biggest battery here? The Red Magic 9S Pro and the new Redmi K80, both packing a massive 6500 mAh. On the other end, the Xiaomi 14 has the smallest one at 4610 mAh. One clear trend: this year's mid-range 8 Gen 3 phones almost all cross the 6000 mAh mark. Silicon batteries mean slightly slower charging speed, but if I had to choose between fast charging and all-day battery life, give me that endurance every time. Let's get this straight. The real battery life champions are absolutely the silicon carbon models. After our grueling 5-hour stress test, these beasts consistently maintain around 50% remaining charge, blowing everything else out of the water. What's really interesting is that some of the newer mid-cycle refreshes like the OnePlus Ace 3 Pro, Realme GT6, and iQOO Neo 9S Pro Plus also put up impressive numbers thanks to their higher energy density batteries. But make no mistake, the silicon carbon battery phones are still the battery life kings. These photography models sacrifice so much internal space for their massive camera systems that even their advanced batteries couldn't fully compensate. The Vivo X100 Ultra takes the crown for best battery life in this category. But let's be real, none of these are endurance champions. The other big players, you know who they are, performed similarly. Though the Oppo X7 Ultra made up some ground with its blazing fast charging speeds. So if you're eyeing one of last year's imaging flagships, you'll need to seriously weigh those battery life trade-offs against that incredible camera performance. First off, the landscape has completely changed from the Samsung or bust mentality of previous years. Nowadays, BOE, TCL, CSOT, Visionox, or Tenma are absolutely killing it with their panels. The only holdouts still using Samsung displays, basically just Samsung's own S24 Ultra and Mate 21 and Vivo's X100 Ultra. That's a huge difference from last year's Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 lineup where Samsung panels dominated. Resolution-wise, we've hit a sweet spot where nearly everyone's moved to 1.5K or 2K. Except for a couple stragglers like the Meizu 21 sticking with 1080p and ZTE's under-display camera phones doing their own thing. Flagships, they've all gone full 2K. Though, interestingly, none of them run at max resolution by default, you know, the battery saving. So if you are a pixel picker, you can always crank it up manually. Brightness wars have reached ridiculous levels this year. We are seeing more than 1600 nit full screen brightness becoming the new normal, which only a handful of phones could hit last year. Chinese display manufacturers aren't just catching up, they are setting new standards while Samsung's presence continues to shrink. The only question now is how much further they can push power efficiency in next year's models. So you might be wondering, with everyone rocking the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, does the performance really differ that much? Well, buckle up, because the gaps in actual gaming performance can be surprisingly big, thanks to different thermal solutions and software tuning. The Redmi K80 unfortunately ends up being the weakest of the new bunch. Meanwhile, the OnePlus Ace 5 and iQOO Neo 10 each have their strength. One maintains more stable frame rates while the other runs noticeably cooler, which matches up with our previous test. Red Magic phones continue their dominance with rocking solid frame rates and excellent thermal control thanks to their built-in active fan cooling. The mid-cycle refresh models like the GT6 and Ace 3 Pro also perform respectably. while camera-focused flagships and standard editions understandably lag slightly behind. The real underperformance among Chinese Agent 3 flagships, that be the now discontinued Realme GT5 Pro, which we didn't mention earlier. It suffers noticeable frame drops in the later stages of gaming sessions due to thermal throttling. Meizu's offering also disappoints. While frame rates look okay on paper, the power consumption and temperatures go completely unchecked, hitting a scorching 49.3 degrees Celsius on the front panel. If gaming is your priority, the OnePlus Ace 5, iQOO Neo 10, and Red Magic 9S Pro stand out from the pack. Everyone else is slightly behind, but let's be real, it's still an Agent 3 we're talking about here. Every non-gaming focused devices can handle most games just fine. Let's talk about cameras, and let's be real. This comparison isn't completely fair because you absolutely get what you pay for. I've split them into 3 tiers to keep things sensible: mid-rangers, standard flagships, and the dedicated camera beast. Now, I can't possibly show you sample photos for all 20 plus devices in this video, so let's go for the lab test. Mid-range phones mostly stick to the classic main camera and ultra-wide camera. When we tested their low light performance, the Redmi K80, iQOO Neo 10, Neo 9S Pro Plus, and Meizu 21 Pro came out slightly ahead, at least on paper. Meizu 21 uses Samsung's HP3 sensor, but somehow it ends up with the worst result in our test. Standard flagships though, their main camera are much closer in performance. Outside of gaming phones, pretty much all of their delivers solid results. Nubia is the odd one here. Instead of a traditional wide-angle main camera, they went with a 35mm focal length. That gives it a slight edge in sharpness and detail. Honor also stand out a bit from the pack. So what's the takeaway? Even with the same Snapdragon Agent 3 chip, the newer is better rule still holds up. Updated models consistently outperform older ones across the board. And honestly, it's wild how fast phones keep improving. The year-over-year gains are still massive. Alright, that wraps it up. Oh wait, you're probably wondering, what about those insane camera phones? Well, guess what? We've got a full deep dive video breaking down every crazy camera setup you can imagine. Want us to make it? Let me know in the comments. I'm Zan from the Wildlife channel, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.